Good morning, Morai v'Rabotai, Bruchim Habayim, and we are continuing on Mesechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Ayin Hey, Amud Bet. We started the last Mishnah of the Mesechta. We are 5 lines up from the last narrow line of the Amud, Amar Rav Ashi. Today's Amud is being learned L'schud Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, who's having an upcoming surgery. B'ezrat Hashem should be for a complete recovery. Refuah Shelema, Amen. So we started the sugya of Tvilat Kelim, and discussing the last part that we discussed was the fact that only Kle Matechot Amurim beParasha, what is mentioned, different types of metals in the pasuk, and therefore only Chiyuv Deoraita that we have, the biblical obligation, only includes the Mesechet, different vessels that are made out of different metals, but Klei Adama are not included. Earthenware is not included in that. And Rav Ashi says, Hani Klei Zechuchit. Rav Ashi says that Klei Zechuchit, glass, because it has the same nature as metal, that if it cracks, if it breaks, you could heat it and revamp the kli and remake it. It's recyclable, says the Gemara. Ho'il v'chi nishtabru yesh lan takana kichli matchot dami. It is considered the same nature when it comes to halachot of tevilat kelim, at least midrabanan, that now they are also obligated to be toiveled, to be dunked in a mikveh. Now, it's very interesting, by the way, to note that Rav Ashi is the same shita in Mesechet Shabbat that holds Kli Zechuchit is like Kli Cheres. We know that Ashkenazi, when it comes to kashrut, at least, they are much more mahmir, that Zechuchit you don't use for Pesach at all, even though that the Shulchan Aruch says Kli Zechuchit is shi v'lo bal'i. They don't observe anything. The traces of food are not necessarily penetrated inside the Kli Zechuchit. But on the other hand, the Rama is machmir for those shitas that hold Kli Zechuchit. Also is made from sand, and therefore we ought to deal with them as Kli Cheres. So it seems many Rishonim explaining that the shita of Rav Ashi is we take the chumrot of both sides when it comes to kashrut. We take the chumrah of Kli Zechuchit being like Kli Cheres, and when it comes to Tevilat Kelim, at least with the Rabbanan level, we deal with it like Kli Matechet because it shares the same property, the same nature as Kli Matechot, that you could melt it, you could form it, and that's really something that has different than Kli Adama, because even though that metal also is Kli Adama, if you think about it, all of them are extracted and mined from the ground, so everything is Kli Adama really, right? But the truth is, by Zechuchit, and also by metal, you have to heat different elements that are found in Adama to extract them and then form them through heat. Like metal is formed through heat, glass is formed through heat. Mashenkin by Kli Adama, actual earthenware, it is not formed through heat. You just have the dirt and the water, and you have your clay, and that's how you make your kli. So therefore, the difference lies really in that element, even though that everything really is extracted from the ground. But be that as it may, the next question of the Gemara is Klei Kunya. Now, Klei Kunya is very interesting because Rashi here explains, for instance, that Klei Kunya is an earthenware that is lined, is covered from inside and perhaps outside with lead, with metal. The Aruch, the Tosot, the other Rishonim, they hold that it is earthenware that is coated with glass, which would be very similar to what the China ware used to be. They had a coating of glass actually over them, and that becomes the Gemara, even though the glass really is midrabanan, and you would say maybe by something that's coated glass from outside and the actual kli is earthenware, it should be different. The Gemara has this question of klei kunya. So let's take a look. 3 lines up from the white lines, from the last three lines of the narrow lines, that is, Klekunya pligiba Rav Acha veRavina. It's machloket between Rav Acha and Ravina. Chad amar kitchilato vechad amar kesofo. You have this earthenware that then you coated it, you lined it with kunya, with either metal, lead, or with glass, and says the Gemara, it's machloket amoraim, whether you deal with it like tichilato, like what it was in the beginning, which is the ikar of the kli, the main part of the vessel is kli adama, earthenware, and therefore it should be patur. And the other one says, no, kesofo, you go after what actually touches the food. What touches the food is metal, is glass, is chayav betfilat kelim. The whole kli is judged based on what actually touches the glass, kesofo. And says the Gemara, the hilcheta, the halacha is that it will be considered kesofo. It will be chayav betfilah, like the end result that what touches the food is glass or metal, and that will be the halacha. Now, there are many areas of machloket when it comes to klei kunya. What exactly is the psak? For instance, you have many linings or coatings of glass or metal for design. Sometimes you have metal coating it from the outside, but inside is kli adama, is earthenware, and sometimes you have it the other way around. So if the entire thing, outside and inside, is covered with metal, then you have, of course, tevilat kelim with bracha. If you have something that is not so clear, especially if it's with glass, then you do it without bracha, especially if the inside of the kli, which touches the food, is not coated with glass or with metal, so it's only on the outside, then of course it will be also absolved. But for instance, you could have a case that you had a kli that has a hole inside, and you covered that hole, fixing the kli with metal, with lead. Now, if you would take that out, the entire kli is worthless because everything seeps out, it's broken. And now you fixed it, what holds this together and holds the food inside is metal, then it will become chayav betfilah. But on the other hand, if you have designs of gold or silver or any other metal from outside, which has nothing to do to holding the kli together, it's just a design from outside, it does not affect the state, halachic state of this kli, and it will be patur mitfilat kelim. Of course, having said all these things, it also brings up a question when you talk about the properties of glass being similar to that of metal. What's going to happen with plastic? Plastic also is, well, kli adama to that degree because it's coming from the ground also, but nevertheless, it has the same properties of metal, that you could melt it if it breaks. It's the ultimate recyclable item that we have in the society. So that becomes, of course, a question. General understanding of the poskim is that plastic is not obligated to tevilat kelim, but there are always, of course, those who are machmir because say, well, they didn't have the item of plastic in the time of Chazal, but if he was there, it would be the same exact thing as zechuchit, as glass, because it has the same properties. So again, we try to get back to this if we get a chance to give a halachic talk on tevilat kelim as well. But nevertheless, the last narrow line of the Gemara says, "Vehilcheta kesofo da kli kunya." Even if it's covered with glass or with metal, it will be halachically chayav b'tfilat kelim. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan writes that Chinaware is chayav b'tfilat kelim, and nowadays many poskim do not say that. And it seems the difference being that 250 years ago, when this became a thing, when Aruch HaShulchan was less than that, but when the Chinaware used to be a prevalent thing, it was earthenware, kli cheres, that was covered with a real coating of glass. Nowadays, however, the fine china that you find in the market, they're not necessarily covered and coated with glass, they are glazed. Now, even within that, if you actually research the glaze that's used for earthenware, for china, you'll find that perhaps 90% of the material inside that glaze is glass. So is that considered like glass? Is that not considered like glass? I was speaking with Rav Tzvi Berkowitz many years ago, and he mentioned to me that when he got married, he married the daughter of Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky Shlita, the granddaughter of Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. And he said when they bought their first set of china for their home, and they were opening the boxes, Rav Yaakov happened to be there, and he told him that he does not have to take it to mikveh. And I found a writing published. It's not in Igrot Moshe that I found, but it was published in a halachic journal many years ago, over 50 years ago, that it said the same thing basically based on Rav Moshe Feinstein. It seems to be that they felt that even if it is glass, if it's very thin, that's not really its own identity, it's batel to the keli, which is a novelty, it's a chidush, but nevertheless, that really forms the shita of many who hold, well maybe lechatchila you should take the china to Tevilat Kelim, but of course you should be careful not to say bracha because of all these sfekot and doubts that we mentioned. So says the Gemara, Ibaya lehu, mashkanta mai. How about if a goy takes his vessel and puts it as a guarantor, as a guarantee to you for a loan? You gave him $100 for a mashkon. He puts his china set over there, or let's be completely out of the machloket. He puts his metal, silverware by you as a mashkon. Now you want to use this silverware. Imagine you did hagala, no problem with kashrut. Can you use it without tvilat kelim? So it says Gemara, Mar bar Ravashi said, I have a story to tell. Amar Mor bar Ravashi, first wide line. Abba mishkale uvet kochavim kasa de kaspa. I remember how a goy came and put a goblet of kesef, of silver, as a mashkon to my father on a loan that he took out from my father. And my father, wanting to use this goblet, first dunked it in the mikveh. He first took it to tevilah, to mikveh, and then he used it. And says more bar Ravashi, I don't know why he did that. It could be for two different reasons. There's a halachic concept that if I put mashkon by you, maybe that's already like a sale. For the while being, until I come to redeem it, it is like I sold it to you. You have all the rights to use it as a purchase. And if you say that mashkanta kizvinidami, halacha looks at mashkon like a sale, so of course Ravashi must have taken it to mikveh before using it. But maybe, says Rabashi, says the son of Rabashi, or maybe really mashkon is not like a sale, but it was different in that case because my father realized that this goy was never planning and intending to pay. He just didn't need this goblet. He left it there and said, Hazaku Baruch, see you never. And he realized that he was really not intending to come back and pay the debt. He was leaving the kli with him. In that case, he felt that this kli, in this case, should be first taken to mikveh and only afterwards used. Tan Rabbanan. Halokeach kli tashmish mina avdei kochavim. If you take a vessel, a utensil from a goy, devarim shelo nishtamesh bahen, if it's something that the goy never used, so hence he does not have any bliot av isur, is kasher as far as kashrut is concerned, matbilan ve'enteorin. You just need to take them to mikveh and they're good to go. Devarim shenishtamesh bahen alidei sonen, if it's something that the goy used, but he used it only with cold, like cups, things that you just put cold drinks in, all of those things that are not used by hot, madichan, you wash them well, you make sure there's no residue of food on them, and then you take them to mikveh, matbilan vehem teorim. Take them to mikveh and they're good to go. But things that he used actually on fire with hot food, kegon, like hayorot, the pots, hakum kemuson, umechame chamin, anything that's used with hot food on fire, magilan umatbilan. then you have to do Hag'ala first, and then do Tvilah. And then Rehem Teorim. Devarim shenishtamesh b'hen al yedei ha'ur, and things that you used on fire, dry without liquid, kegon shvudin v'askelaot, like the barbecue utensils. Melabenanu matbilan, then you have to do first libun. You first have to put them through fire until they're red hot, and then you take them to mikveh with tvilah v'hen teorin, and then it will be fine. V'chulan shenishtamesh b'hen ad shelo yatbil v'shelo yag'il. If you use them without tvilah and without hag'ala and without libun, tani chada asur v'tani idach mutar. One Tana holds that is asur, the other one holds it is mutar. Now, before we deal with this, you for sure noted that the Gemara consistently, from the Mishnah all the way until what we just read, whenever he speaks about kosherizing and Tevilah, it says you have to kosherize first, and then you do Tevilah. The Tosafot over here, Magilanu Matbilan Ve'en Teorin, the one before last, says doesn't make a difference which one you do first. You could do Tevilah first if you feel like it, if your mikveh is right next to you, and then you could do Hagala afterwards. You could do Hagala first. That doesn't make any difference. You have to do both of them, the order you choose, right? Other Rishonim disagree with this, right? For instance, the Ra'avad holds that no, lachatchila, you for sure have to do Hag'ala first, you do Hechsher, you first make it kosher, and then you could do Tvilah. And the Rashba perhaps is the most, Rashba, the Ran, even, the most Machmir, that is like Tovel Vesheres Beyado. If it's not kasher, if he has some bliot of Davar Acher, of Chazer inside, and you're taking it to Tevilah, says Baruch Atah Hashem, Al Tevilat Kelim, it's pig. Tovel v'sheres be'ado, and says you have to go back and tovel it again. Therefore, you find in the Shach, in Shulchan Aruch Yoredatz and Kufchaf, the Shach paskins that if you by mistake, says the Chatchila, you have to do first Hechsher, go take it through the process of Hechsher, whether Hagala, Libun, whatever it takes, and then do Tvilah. And if you reverse the order, you should go back and do Tvilat Kelim without bracha. Even though that the Rashba perhaps would tell you that you have to say another bracha because you just messed up and botched the first time. But here, of course, afek brachot lakel, and therefore you do the Tvilat Kelim all over again. So if a person purchases something from a garage sale or a second hand on eBay or whatnot, you first have to kosherize it before you get all excited about taking it to mikveh, and that would be the halacha. So it says, the Gemara, we have now a machloket over here, whether or not if you use the kli without hag'ala first, is it asur or mutarna? And Gemara says not a machloket. This is the old age machloket of notentam lepegam that we have discussed before. Lo kasha. How come on damar notentam lepegam asur? The one that says is asur holds like the Mande Amar that noten tam lepegam, that tam pagum, a damaged taste, an old taste, also is asur. Hakamanda Amar noten tam lepegam mutar, and the other one who holds is mutar, holds that noten tam lepegam is mutar. Now, how does that work exactly? Ulmanda Amar noten tam lepegam mutar. If you hold that noten tam lepegam is okay, is good to go. That means once you wait one day and the taste that has been absorbed in the kli, the traces of food, now they're going to be bad tasting and therefore the whole thing is mutar. When the Torah talks about kle midyan, it says, oh, you have to kasher it. How do you find such a thing? Just wait one day, and then it's noten tam lepegam, and then it's mutar. Why do you even have to kosherize anything? Why would the Torah go out of its way and have a whole parasha of Kle Midyan when you really could just wait one day and it will be mutar? Amar Rav Chia bered Rav Huna. Rav Chia bered Rav Huna says, "Enachinami lo asra Torah ela kedera bat yoma." Yes, the Torah is only talking if you want to use it within the day. That's when you deal with it with the kosherizing methods of Hagala and Libun, but in Achinami, if you wait 24 hours, then you're good to go without any hechsher. By the way, the Rashi over here, the first Rashi on the top of the Amud, says that Ben Yoma means that the night has not passed over it yet, right? But if a night passes over it, then it's mutar. That's she'eno Ben Yomo, right? Aval bishel bah etmol kvar hifik ba ta'amo belinat laila. When the night passes over it, it's already considered pagum. Veshuv keshepolto is going to be ta'am lepegam. Rabbeinu Tam also agrees with Rashi that you don't need 24 hours, but linat laila, a night passing over it, it's sufficient. Something with night passing over it. That's what it is. Other Rishonim, the majority, almost every single one of the Rishonim disagrees with this Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi, and they say no. When we talk about Ben Yomo, it means exactly that. It's within 24 hours. And it's a number. And you have to be specific about it. The Ben Ish Chai, actually in a Tshuva in Rav Pa'alim Chelek Bet, he brings a she'ela in which he suggests, says maybe we could use the Shita of Rabbeinu Tam, he calls it, really is Rashi, the same Shita, so maybe we could use it as a doubled out, as a compounded safeka, and it says no. The Shita of Rabbeinu Tam is so rejected from halacha that we don't even use it. The minhag hora'ah is that we don't even use it as a safek safeka. Chamadia disagrees with that. He uses it actually for a doubled out compounded safek, but nevertheless, that's the Shita of Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam versus almost all the other Rishonim. And let's just finish this piece of Gemara over here. Says the Gemara, Mikan va'elach nishteri. The Gemara says, okay, so if that's correct, after 24 hours, let it be mutar. The Gemara says, no. Kedera shena bat yoma, mishum kedera bat yoma. L'chatchila, you can't let that happen either, because if you let that, then the whole thing is going to fall apart. It's a gezerah. This comes to the other one, so therefore everything is asur. You cannot use a goyish kli that has been used with isur without first running it through a hechsher process. And the Gemara says ve'idach, the one that holds noten tam lepegam is asur, is mutar. So what does he hold? Ve'idach kedrabat yoma nami mifkam tama. If you say that noten tam lepegam is asur, right? So then, says the Gemara, that man damar who holds the time to come is asur. How does he understand the pasuk of Kelei Midyan? Says the Gemara, because even within the 24 hours is pagum. Still, every hour is becoming more pagum. It's not that you look at your clock and by 24th hour, boom, it goes from 100 to 0. Every minute is becoming less and less, and until 24 hours, there's nothing left. So it's pagum, and still the Torah says asur. So you see from here that noten tablet pegam is asur. We will Bezat Hashem continue this in the next shiur. Chazak Baruch.